What's up guys, welcome to the channel. In this one we're going to dive into aquarium filters and how they work to ensure that you have crystal clear water in your fresh or saltwater tanks. So let's get started. First off, the main purpose of an aquarium filter is essentially the same as an air filter for us. Air filters clean the air we breathe, and an aquarium filter cleans and oxygenates the water so that fish can stay healthy and breathe as well. Aquarium filters remove both solid waste, such as uneaten food, fish waste, dirt, as well as ammonia and nitrates, which can be very harmful to your fish tank, as well as oxygenating the water. They remove all these things through three types of filtration: mechanical filtration, biological filtration, and chemical filtration. First, mechanical filtration is the most simple. This is the process of using any sort of screen, foam pad, anything that as the water passes through, it basically strains out all those bigger particles. So the mechanical filtration is actually going to take out all the impurities in the water that you could basically see with your naked eye. A lot of filters use both coarse media as well as really fine media. That way anything that's going to harm the pump in any way is already strained, and then it can pump through the biological filter. Now these mechanical filters, when you use your foam pads, anything that has a lot of surface area, it can actually double for your second form of filtration, which is that biological filtration. Biological filtration basically just means the buildup of beneficial bacteria that are growing in your filter media. These beneficial bacteria actually break down ammonia into nitrates, which is very important in your fish tank because the buildup of ammonia actually burns your fish's gills and prevents oxygen transport. So essentially, if your ammonia levels get too high, your fish basically suffocate. Now all protein-based waste, like that fish waste, any uneaten food, anything like that, that's going to break down into ammonia, which is why your beneficial bacteria are so important, because there's going to be a lot of that in any tank you set up. In a lot of my own aquariums, I actually double up that mechanical filter as the biological filter as well, just because when you get a big enough pad in there, all that surface area allows a ton of beneficial bacteria to grow, and all that stuff that comes through that gets filtered out gets broken down by that bacteria, which then breaks into nitrates, which plants can use or can be turned into nitrogen gas that will be released into the surface. The most important thing to think about when you're setting up your biological filtration is to make sure you provide something with a lot of surface area. So whether that is just a thick foam pad, you can also use lava rock, or a lot of times even in the substrate, but you really want to make sure you have something good in your filter because that's where all the water is going to be flowing through. Now the third type of filtration is chemical filtration. Not all filters use this, but the most common form of chemical filtration is actually activated carbon or activated charcoal. That activated carbon or charcoal actually has just tons of tiny little pores in it that form as traps for pollutants, and as that water flows through your filter through all that activated charcoal or carbon, all those pollutants get taken out. That way they're not recycling through your fish tank. This can help a lot with discolored water as well as odor in your fish tank, so if you have any of those problems, make sure to add some of this activated charcoal. You can pick it up for pretty cheap, throw that in your filter, it'll make quite the difference. Now that you know a little bit more about the basic function of filters as a whole, let's talk about a little bit more specific filter types. One of the first types of filters that a lot of people use is what's called sponge filters. The reason these are so popular is because they're very cheap and there's not a lot of moving parts on them, so it makes them a lot easier to maintain as well as a lot less likely to break. These sponge filters just use an air pump that basically pulls air through that sponge, which pulls water up through that sponge as well for both mechanical and biological filtration. Cons to these is they actually do go in the tank, so they can take up a little bit of room. They're not always the prettiest, so if you're worried about that, this might not be the best option, but they are very easy to maintain. A second very popular option is a hang on the back filter. Benefits with these include adjustable filter media, so you can change out the type of filter that you have in there, as well as a lot of them come with adjustable flow rates, so you can change that depending on how big your tank is and what type of fish you're stocking. These do use a power motor to pump water in and out of the tank, so they do make a little bit more noise both with that filter as well as that waterfall sound, but a lot of people enjoy that. These are very popular filters because they're also fairly easy to maintain, and they do hang on the back of your tank so you don't actually see them quite as much as you would with a sponge filter. Another typically larger option is canister filters. These sit outside the tank, typically underneath where you can't see them, with an intake and an outtake hose that just pump in and out of the tank. So these do take up a lot less space and you don't see them as much. They can also be quite a bit quieter than hang on the back or sponge filters, but most of the time they are a lot more expensive. They're also a little bit harder to service just because everything's down in the canister. You got to take that out, unhook it, move things around, so it's a little bit harder from that standpoint, but they do come with a lot of benefits. Now although these technically aren't a filter, it is worth mentioning that live plants are one of the best ways to filter your aquarium, just because they actually use the nitrates and ammonia in their own growth. So when possible, make sure to throw those live plants in your tank. This is going to make it look a lot more natural. The only cons with plants is, of course, there's a lot more to learn and they can die. But in my opinion, every tank looks better with some live plants in it. One other thing to consider when you're getting a filter for your aquarium is its flow rate. Typically, it's recommended to have a flow rate that turns over your entire aquarium about 4 to 5 times an hour. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, a flow rate of 40 to 50 gallons an hour is recommended, and a lot of places actually recommend a flow rate of up to 10 times per hour. With that flow rate and whatever filter you get, it's also important to know that these filters also help with the oxygenation of water. The movement of the water through your filters actually creates what's called surface exchange, which essentially allows oxygen to replace the nitrogen in your water so the fish can continue to breathe. Now, no matter what filter you're going to get, it is still required to do water changes. The filters aren't capable of cleaning every little thing in your aquarium, so those water changes are going to be essential to get rid of any excess ammonia or nitrogen buildup in your aquarium. But it is recommended every couple months to clean out your filter as well. So just take everything apart, take all the different media out. You can give it a quick rinse in the aquarium water that you already have. The reason that you use aquarium water from the aquarium is because you do have that beneficial bacteria living in that filter media. So you don't want to use cold or hot water or any water that's going to kill any of that beneficial bacteria. You just want to get some of that mechanical filtration, all that dirt and grime out of that filter so it can run a little bit more smooth. In conclusion, although filters sometimes seem pretty complicated, they definitely don't have to be. Just focus on those first 2 types of filtration, both a mechanical and biological filtration. You can kind of adjust from there. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this one right here. That's me reorganizing my neon Tetra tank.